Yep.
Oh no. I
Uh,
vamping.
hey, De- Devin, it's so
Hold
dark. What
hold
happened?
Well, so I had those lovely blue
Testing.
lights that I set up behind me, and someone took the blue lights. So starting next week, I'll have a more permanent setup in the other room where I have like the cool runner lights that make me sometimes look like Shrek. So I'm really excited to get back to that. But for now, we're gonna have Blair Witch Devon.
So you won't be the sad little man in the blue house anymore.
I'm not even wearing my Jurassic Park shirt today, guys. I don't know what's going
Dude,
on with me. I'm
you must
falling
be.
apart.
I make a European like dance song joke, and you go straight to Jurassic Park.
EDM completely missed me. I don't know anything about that.
No, it did not.
It's not EDM. I mean, it's not really. I mean, it kind
Oh,
of.
were you referencing Blue by Eiffel 65?
Blue man in a blue house with a blue car.
Blue little window and a blue Corvette, and everything is blue
Yes.
for him and himself. Yeah, that's Blue by Eiffel 65. Didn't even catch it. Didn't catch it.
Um,
They're just
De-
sailing
Dev-
over today, guys.
Devin, in high school, you listened to EDM.
Did I? What did I listen to?
Sandstorm.
Sandstorm is different, and so is Every Time We Touch by Cascada. Those are special, and you don't touch them.
They're EDM. There's nothing wrong with that.
But they're the only two that I listen to are those two. I don't know the wider genre.
Still,
You need to get into it.
Do I? I'm doing it.
I mean, you're living in the UK. You should.
I feel like I almost have to, right?
yeah.
And football.
It's like the second most popular genre of music over in Europe, isn't it?
I think so. I really, truly think so. If it makes you feel any better at all today, I had a call with somebody, and he goes, "Oh, you're American." I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I know football." And I go, "Oh, do you?" And he goes, "Green Bay Packers, the Rams." And I'm like, we're on the same page with football teams. Got it. We both know the names of them, and that's it.
Well, then then you should really throw him for a look and be like, okay, what's the team from Washington? Because they keep changing it.
They do. That's fair.
And it might change again if Bezos and Jay-Z buy it.
Are they going to buy it?
It's the rumors. It's a rumor. It's them and there was a third party now. I can't remember who it was. No.
It might as well be.
It might as well be because if they wanted the whole league to dissolve, yeah, sure.
I'm fine with Bezos owning a team. It's no worse than Jerry Jones owning the Cowboys. It's fine.
What else is there left to do in the world but own a team? To be fair, he's already gone to space.
And he already owns the Washington Post. He might as well. He's probably going to buy the football team, and then he's going to buy the Washington Monument. He's just like, he's got a hard on for
anything Washington.
Yeah,
he wears his teeth at night. You know it. Starting to rumor now.
Okay. He has his powder wig at home, so he's not always bald.
I'm a pretty Bezos.
Yeah.
That's what he says to himself. You can tell.
And we're no longer streaming on Amazon.
Good.
Okay. You guys ready to get into this?
Let's do it.
We got a lot of show to talk about. So
We do.
hey everybody, welcome to You Have to Watch This podcast. I'm Alan.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Devin.
And today we're flying back into the danger zone when I had Devin and Ryan watch Top Gun Maverick for the first time. Last time we saw each other, we were all in the same room eating all kinds of different treats. So if you've not seen that episode, go check that out. Sound quality was weird on it, but
Yeah, that's what you get.
it was the content, not the quality, that mattered. So before we get into the show proper, Devin, how was your trip back? I'm sure we're going to talk about it a bit later, but
We literally have to talk about it. But my trip back was great. I got upgraded to business class for the first time in my life, and now I'm a fancy boy and will never not ride business class.
nice.
So it was wonderful.
All right, cool. I know we're going to talk about it a bit more later. So let's get into our segment that we do here at the top of the show where we talk about things that we've watched over the past week that we want to talk about. And I think the first one is something that we all watched because it was like 3 minutes long and I told us all to watch it, which was the Studio Ghibli Disney Lucasfilm collab, Zen, Grogu, and the Dust Bunnies. Devin, you missed this conversation before the show. I said to Ryan, I might cut this because I don't really have much to say. It was fine.
It was fine, right? It was fun. I wish I had more to say about it. I already love Studio Ghibli. It didn't make me love Studio Ghibli anymore. I already think Grogu's a fine character. I don't think he's any more or less fine.
Yeah.
Ryan?
I wouldn't even go that deep into it. This was just, hey, one studio sent over music, another studio sent over some line drawings, they put it on a background, and boom, 3 minutes. That's literally all it was. I was upset, actually.
Yeah.
Were you upset about it? I wanted one of us to have like a real big hot take, like, well, that's not what a Jedi training should be, or this doesn't fit in the canon of something.
No. I knew that it wasn't going to be canon. I didn't care about it not being canon. In fact, what I wanted was Grogu helping the suit balls throw the coal into the furnace.
Okay.
I thought that this was going to go down that way, but instead it was some like Fantasia thing.
It could have been, you know those fireplaces that you put on for Christmas?
This wasn't even that good. I'm sorry.
I could put that on like that. Like if this was looped for an hour, I would do that.
I would throw my TV out the window. It's fine for what it is. I think you going into it as much as you did gives it too much credit for what it actually is.
That's fair. It might also not have been made for us.
Yeah.
To be entirely honest.
Speaking of Star Wars things, which I did not pull, Devin, have you started Andor yet?
I haven't, but Ryan messages me every day about watching Andor. I need to watch Andor.
Screenshots of non-spoiler comments that people make on Facebook of memes that are non-spoiler, but drive the point home that Devin needs to watch it, and I send him this stuff every single day, and I tag it with "Watch Andor."
Devin, I've got 2 words that'll make you watch it.
What are they?
Andy Serkis. Did I say Andy Serkis? I meant Saul Guerrero.
Ooh, actually.
No, both. Andy Serkis is in it, and he's playing a human. He's not playing Snoke.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So.
I mean, look, maybe I even like Saul Guerrero more this time. Maybe I just didn't understand who he was when I saw him in Rogue One. Now that I'm a mature adult.
Or anything else that he's shown up in since Rogue One.
Oh, I saw him in the video game. That doesn't count.
He just shows up in everything now.
Why?
Like, if George Lucas is still in charge, he'd probably put Saul Guerrero in the prequels.
What they need to do is make a Andor type show for Saul Guerrero, which I would not be surprised if they're actively working on.
I don't think they
want to see that.
I don't think they need to, because he shows up in everything. I think they're showing his story arc at so many different points to like show you this progression of this character over time, because he's in Rebels, he's in Clone Wars, like that's where the character came from originally. Yeah. So you have him in Clone Wars, then he shows up in Rebels, he shows up in Andor, he shows up in Fallen Order, he's probably going to show up in the sequel to Fallen Order. Then you have him in Andor and Rogue One. So, I mean, I don't think he's going to show up in anything post Rogue One for reasons, but.
Oh, he'll be there. Don't you worry.
Yeah. I need more than that for him. Like, I like the character. I don't have any problems with him showing up and stuff. I just need more besides a quick 1-minute scene in a bunch of different things. Like, I want an actual concrete storyline of, like, what drives him to the point where like the actual Rebel Alliance wants nothing to do with him. Like I want to see that progression between him working with them to where like he's a pariah. Like I want to see that progression.
His hatred of the Empire is just too strong. He's just a loose cannon. It's all that. It's just going to be that. And I don't need a whole series.
No. You are setting yourself up for not liking something that could be great, because Devin, you always do this. You never learn from your mistakes. You never ever learn from your mistakes, and you're proving it right now.
Thanks for the therapy lesson, Ryan. I mean, you're absolutely right, but thank you.
All right, so I've got something for we watched this. I don't know if you can tell. I don't know if you can tell from my background, but I saw Black Panther: Wakanda Forever.
You can barely notice it. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you can tell.
He's holding a cup, by the way.
I forgot this is also an audio podcast. So,
right.
Yay, visual jokes. Yeah, I saw Wakanda Forever this weekend. It's good. It's probably the best Marvel movie that came out this year. Maybe not my favorite, but probably the best. They do a very good job of paying tribute to T'Challa and Chadwick Boseman while continuing the story with new characters and new storylines. And I just did a review for it on Victims and Villains, so you can go listen to my full review there. Any questions about Wakanda Forever?
Yeah, I mean, when does it start streaming on Disney Plus, and why is it tomorrow?
It's not tomorrow.
I want to watch it real bad. I just don't know that I'm going to get out to the cinema for it. So I'm just waiting for it to come on Disney Plus because I heard it's good. I heard they do T'Challa well.
Yeah, the cinema.
You're
not even back for a week and you're already starting to talk like them again.
Take a sip of my tea.
He sends us a message before we start saying, "I'm going to be a minute. I'm making tea."
Yeah.
It's cold. Tea's nice. I'm sorry.
You're still an American citizen. Act like it. You're still
Yeehaw.
But yeah, I enjoyed it. If you do go see it, there is a mid-credit scene, no post-credit. So
is it okay? Hold on. Without spoiling, is it more of like Julia Louis-Dreyfus shows up and is like, "Hey, want to be in my B squad?" And they go, "Okay," and then she walks away, and that's it.
In the mid-credit scene, no.
Is it in the movie itself?
She's actually in the movie. Yeah.
Ugh.
Slight spoilers for Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. You find out that she was married to Martin Freeman's character.
Oh, that's what their subplot is. I heard their subplot was not worth it.
It wasn't, but it was fun to like have them together. I guess
yeah, it's neat.
Yeah,
those are two people I know or recognize.
Fun.
It was nice actually seeing that character have real screen time though, because everything else was just like cameos. Here she was actually in at least 2 minutes of the movie. So
like Saw Gerrera.
Gross. Don't you bring that up again. We're done. No more Saw Gerrera.
Yeah. Ryan, you had something.
Yes, Inside Man on Netflix is excellent. Kristen and I are 2 episodes into it at the moment. Man, I had the actor's name on the tip of my tongue and I lost it.
Stanley Tucci?
Thank you. Stanley Tucci plays pretty much Take Monk. And the concept of Monk is that this guy who's a detective loses his wife, develops a mental health issue that lets him solve crimes like a superhero, pretty much.
Oh.
Turn that on its head. His wife is dead, but he's on death row.
Oh, wow.
And because of his abilities, he helps people solve crimes that fits his criteria from jail. This is probably the first time I'm ever actually going to say this, because I finally understand it. The writing is amazing.
Okay.
The script, the writing, this is the first time I'm bringing anything like that up, because I've always felt like I was never qualified enough to actually make that statement. But the wit and the storyline itself is absolutely amazing. There's half the plot has to do with a certain thing, because with a certain subject I'm not going to talk about on here.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say that it would make a great SVU Special Victims Unit episode.
Yes.
But I highly recommend it. Stanley Tucci at Stanley Tucci's best, I think, when it comes to like a short run series.
Oh, and I love him, so I'm excited to watch this one. I have so much to watch, so I don't know that I'll get to it, but it sounds great.
Yeah, no, it is really good.
Did you mention the David Tennant of it all?
Ryan, you're talking to me. Why did you not lead with that?
I know Stanley Tucci. I don't know who David Tennant is. Who's that?
He's the 10th. I was going to say he's the 10th Doctor, but he's the 10th and 14th Doctor.
He's nothing to me.
Yeah.
The tall, skinny British man, probably.
You know, Devon, for as much... Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, he's great in this. He has a great A great storyline so
Yeah.
far in 2 episodes.
Devin, for as much as Ryan tries to get you to watch Star Trek, I think you need to return with Doctor Who.
With Doctor Who, I think so. I think we now need a two-way here.
But yeah, Devin, you watched a movie on your flight home that I want to talk about.
Movies.
Yes, the first one I have up is Confess Fletch.
I was so shocked and pumped to see this movie because it's one of the things that I forgot. I heard about, completely forgot about, and then was just clicking through the airplane movies and went, "Oh, right, this movie." I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It's essentially a story of a detective. I'm not going to say too much more than that. Played by John Hamm, who's the guy that does Mad Men. It's wonderful. I mean, it's so good. I'm going to make you both watch it.
Okay. Are you familiar with the Fletch series at all?
Not even a little bit.
Okay.
I didn't even know it was based on anything until you said something right now.
It's based on a series of books that they've made movies of before in the 70s or 80s starring Chevy Chase.
Weird. Okay.
Yeah. And Kevin Smith was going to make a Fletch movie called Fletch Lives, or he was going to make a Fletch movie in like the early 2000s with Jason Lee.
Oh.
But when I saw that this was actually made, I was like, oh, that somebody actually made another Fletch movie. I'm excited to see this. I've never seen a Fletch movie. I'm intrigued by them from what I've heard about the stories. So
yeah. Well, the only thing I know about this going into it is that specifically in the middle of filming, they ran out of money or they pulled their funding. So John Hamm cut off a portion of his paycheck and went, "Fine, I'm funding the rest of this movie."
Yeah.
And I knew that this was his passion.
And then the director was like, well, if he's going to do it, I guess I should do that too.
Exactly.
But then they all got paid anyway. So.
Well, of course. But I loved this movie. I'm going to make y'all watch it because it's just such a good dry wit the whole time. It's such a fun watch. I love it.
Okay. And then you also had Jordan Peele's Nope.
Yeah, y'all are watching this. I don't even want to tell you what it's about. How much do you guys know about it?
I know it's Jordan Peele, and I know it's got horses.
Fair. All right. I'm telling you
what I do know is they shot this during the day, and it's mostly set at night. And
it wasn't. Yeah.
And I think I've used them as the example of day for night working, and then I use House of Dragons as day for night not working. So
you can't really tell that it's shot during the day, shot during the day, because I didn't know and didn't notice, and I'm usually pretty good about picking up on stuff like that. I love this movie. I love Jordan Peele. I would watch anything that he does, except for that Twilight Zone series, because he put it on a weird station. But I'd watch anything that came from him, and I'm going to make you watch this, and I'm going to make all of you watch it, and I'm not going to tell you anything more about it. So, sorry, guys, you're watching it.
Well, I'll keep the suspense for Alan, because I unintentionally know everything about it.
Do you know what NOPE stands for?
I read a giant spoiler comment on it a few months ago, so...
Get out.
Yeah.
Get out.
I didn't mean to. It just popped up on one of the comment sections I was on.
And my eyes just kept reading.
Yeah, I did.
So that you said you watched 3 films on the plane. Let's talk about the third one, shall we?
We have to, yeah.
Let's get into today's main topic, the long-awaited by some people, Top Gun Maverick, starring Tom Cruise, Miles Teller, and Jennifer Connelly. The reason we are watching this week is because the year's wrapping up. Thanksgiving's next week. So I want to start going through some of my favorite movies of the year that I know you guys haven't seen. And this was at the top of my list for reasons that we'll get into. So this is a movie that kind of took the box office by storm this summer. And I did not. So the movie came out. I need to pull up IMDb because I forgot to.
No worries.
But this is a movie that came out early summer that I did not see until September. Wow. Just because I never got around to it. Like I saw Lightyear in theaters before I saw this.
That was a choice.
It was the wrong choice. This was released. Oh, they used to have it somewhere. They keep moving things on me. But yeah, I saw this in September as part of a double feature. And I think I talked about this on the show before. But I saw this in the theaters. It was me and a grandmother and like her 7-year-old grandson. That was it. Because it was a matinee showing on a weekend. The theater was almost completely empty. I thought I had it to myself, but I did not. I'm so glad I got to see this on the big screen. And I'm part of what we're going to talk about today is what your guys' experience was watching this at home or on a plane. But this is one that I wanted. If I was going to see it, I wanted to see it on the big screen because I think it would do it more justice. And I think that's part of the reason I enjoyed it so much, was just having it on the big screen. I remember when I saw Doctor Strange in ScreenX, they did the ScreenX preview for this. So when you're in the cockpit, you get the walls being like what you see on the outside of the plane. Oh, wow. And yeah, that made me want to go see it in ScreenX, and that's why part of the reason I held off on for so long is because I wanted to see it in that format, and it just didn't happen. So, Ryan, how was your viewing experience with Top Gun Maverick?
I watched it at home.
Yeah,
it was good. I didn't have to deal with a grandmother and her 7-year-old grandchild.
I forgot to mention to you guys, when I saw Black Panther this weekend, I had to deal with an infant in the theater.
Why would someone bring an infant into the theater?
That's a very good question, and I did not find out.
They're going to miss the subtlety of Martin Freeman's acting choices.
He's not that subtle.
Then he caught all of it. Got it.
Yes. Okay. You have a pretty decent setup at home, so did it feel like you were... Did you get the impact of it?
I was good. Seeing it in theaters would have been cool. Like, it definitely would have been cool to see. But I am happy with seeing it at home. I've got that sound system, so that that I'm good. I'm good when it comes to that. But I mean, it was good. The experience was fine. I mean, I was able to pause it when I had to pause it.
Yeah. I think this is the first time in the show's history that one of us is making you made us watch the original.
You did.
And I'm making you watch the sequel. I think that's the first time this has happened on the show.
Yeah.
Like one of us coming back with a sequel. So
that's true, because usually we stick with it individually. Like, I'll make you watch both.
So we're gonna get into what your thoughts are on this compared to the original, Ryan, because that was your pick, and Devin, because you've seen it too. But Devin, I've been dying to know, how was watching Top Gun on a plane?
Phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. I don't want to. I'm just gonna talk about the end of the movie because I absolutely have to tell you this. During the end dogfight, when it's, do you care if I mention the 2 airplanes involved?
No.
Fine. It's Tom Cruise in his old airplane against the 2 like M5s or whatever, the 2 modern ones. Freaking, we hit turbulence in the middle of that scene, and it was bad turbulence. And part of me was like, I should turn the movie off. And the other part's like, wait, this is amazing. And it kind of was. It was like the best possible way to watch that scene. I loved it and would recommend it. I mean, and you also had the thing where, like, when they're up in the sky, if you look to the left, there's the sky. And it wasn't really 4D because there was like a guy on my right on his cell phone. But whatever, because the sky was on my left and it totally worked.
Did the guy at least have a weird mustache?
No, he kept forgetting that there was a camera, like that his phone has a flashlight function. So once every couple of seconds, I'd get like hit with his flashlight. It was weird.
Okay.
Thanks, guy, by the way.
So did you like time it with the takeoff for the music? Like,
yeah, I absolutely should have. No, I was already up in the air.
Okay.
I was debating if I should watch it like in the middle or like towards the end, and I
You
like
were
just take off like no,
you were already in the danger zone.
I was in the danger zone. I love it.
Um, so part of the reason I want to talk about our experiences with this is like this movie was supposed to come out in 2020, uh, and it didn't because of COVID. Tom Cruise was very adamant that this was not going straight to streaming. They were saving this for when the theaters opened, and it got pushed back a few times. Um, let me pull. So I, being the only one to have seen it on the big screen, Devin, did you feel like you lost anything watching? How big was the screen that you watched it on your plane? Did you feel like you missed anything or missed out?
So, no, it's a good question. So since I was in business class, the screen was actually bigger than like the standard like seat back like little cell phone screen you get. It was about the size of my laptop. I'm sure I missed out on some of like the nuancy stuff, and I'm sure like if I'd seen it in a theater, like some of the scenes, especially when they do like the flips and they do that one like helix maneuver, like that probably would have made me like feel like something in the pit of my stomach. I definitely didn't get that, but those aren't the parts I loved about the movie, so I didn't feel like I missed much. I feel like people would think they did. I see how the big screen would really enhance this movie.
Ryan, how about you? Are you happy with how you watched it? Because I know you've got a little bit of a better setup than somebody watching this at home on their Apple Watch.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
I like it. It's one of those things where it's like a theater would have been cooler. It would have, but I don't feel like I really missed out, and I don't like regret it. So, you can take it for that.
Yeah. So when I watched it at home, because I went out and bought the Blu-ray. When I watched it at home, I was looking forward to cranking up the sound system and watching this, but it was a little bit too late at night for me to do that, so I ended up putting on the headphones and watching it that way. Still good. I just turned them up as loud as I could and felt the same. There's just some really good cinematography in this that I enjoyed, especially with that opening test flight. Like I really enjoyed some of the stuff they did with that flight and showing it over the skyline, and just the effects of that just looked really good on the screen.
I bet. I mean, a lot of the effects and a lot of the shots in this movie were just phenomenal. I mean, yeah, I agree. We'll have to talk about a few more, but I completely agree.
Yeah, the scene you're talking about specifically, I love the fact that they're actually showing them still trying to test out, like the pretty much like a 10G plane to try to get 10 G's out of it, and just that whole setup of that opening scene. Like yeah, I could definitely see this is where Maverick would have ended up if
Yeah.
he still stayed a captain and he didn't move up the ranks. Like I could definitely see him being like the top test pilot in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And it was also nice to see tiny little things like having the little cartoon skunk on the on the tail fin for it, because that skunk works. That's Lockheed Martin.
Oh,
Yeah,
is it?
See, the cartoon skunk that's on one of the tail fins of that like 10G plane at the beginning, that was on the SR-71 Blackbird.
Oh, wow.
So, and that came from that department of Lockheed Martin. So it was kind of like a wink to be like, hey, this is one of these like top secret planes that, the government said the 70s was, oh no, it's nothing. You're seeing UFOs.
It's a weather balloon.
Yeah, it's a weather balloon. So it's the tiny little things like that about this movie I absolutely love. Like they didn't shy away from any of that, and you can clearly tell that the Department of Defense had a hand in this as well.
Oh yeah, they spent a lot of time working with the Navy in this, just on the aircraft carrier, just like the first one.
Yeah.
But I don't have all the details from that in front of me. So was there anything in this movie that made you guys go like, okay, this was worth a sequel?
All of it, every second of it. There
Okay.
wasn't a second of this movie that I thought was. They did enough callbacks to the first one, and they did enough like in the first one that like you do in a sequel. But like at no point did I think that like this wasn't worth watching. I think that anybody that watches like Top Gun for the first time, I would recommend watching this movie almost immediately after. This is now part of it for me.
Well, they go the right direction with Maverick's character, because no one wants to see Tom Cruise's character behind a desk pushing pencils, and I'm just going to say it, like Iceman was. Like, no one wants to see that out of Maverick. And so the only part that I thought was kind of cheesy was when he walked out of his Airstream trailer in an airplane hangar, and there's like a P-51 Mustang that he's restoring. And I'm like, oh, can you get any more Hollywood and cheesy? Like, this is like Gone in 60 Seconds type stuff. But that's but I mean, to show you how good this movie is, that's the only real cheesy part that I can even point out, is like that 5-second like camera pan of like him living in an Airstream trailer in a hangar, restoring a World War II fighter plane. Like, that's the cheesiest thing that this movie does.
Did you have a feeling, Alan?
I was pleasantly surprised by most of this. Like, when I first heard like, okay, there's a Top Gun sequel, and then the trailer plays the music. Oh, okay. But then I I kept hearing good things about it. I'm like, it can't be this good. Like, it's just got to be stupid. Like, right? And then I saw it, I was like, no, it kind of works. Like, it works so well. And it kind of gave me a bit of like a tiny bit of respect for Tom Cruise for being so adamant and like using his power to be like, no, you're not putting this on a streaming service. We are saving this for when the theaters reopen. And I think that's part of the reason like this movie is so good, because it is a return to the movies. Like, this is the second movie since COVID to reach $1 billion. Any guesses what the other one was? Also stars a Tom.
Spider-Man.
And it's the first movie of Tom Cruise's career to gross $1 billion at the box office.
Is it really?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure if you add up all the Mission Impossibles, they get close, but
yeah,
but not Vanilla Sky.
Please tell me that's a joke.
Of course it is.
Okay. You can also add Eyes Wide Open to that one too.
Gross. I won't.
But I think even though there's such a big time gap between the films, I think it works for the story. Like, it doesn't seem forced. Because go ahead. No, you go ahead.
No, well, so to piggyback off that point, literally the opening of it is the opening of the first one. And I wanted to be Mr. Cynical Devon, and I just went, I sat in my seat and went, they're just doing the opening of the first one, but it looks better. And like halfway through, my cold heart just melted, and I go, I don't care, I love it.
Did you stop being cynical once Danger Zone started playing?
It was even before Danger Zone. They the second plane left the carrier, I'm like, I'm on board. And then when they were like, oh, General so-and-so, the drone man, I'm like, this is just going to be a plot about how pilots are blah, blah, blah. And it wasn't, and I was still on board. It was every time the movie tried to do something that Cynical Devon wanted to pop up in, it just got batted right down. Like, it works so well. I hate it.
So I think we're going to take the bonk dog with the baseball bat and change its meaning for Devon being cynical.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just get bonked every time. It's fair.
Yeah. So this movie had 36 years between sequels.
Wow.
Blade Runner had 35. Tron had 28. So yeah, it's not often you get sequels like this with that far in between. But character-wise, it works because you have Maverick returning, and you also have Goose's son, Rooster, returning in this. What did you guys think of their dynamic? Because it's like the focal point of the film is how they interact with each other.
What did you think, Ryan?
I thought it was great. I had no issue with that. Again, this goes into, like, this is realism. You have a kid who basically one has a lot of resentment for Maverick because his dad died under his protection. One, and then two, they explain that Maverick, at the request of, Rooster's mother, which I know I'm using his call sign, but whatever. They use the term "pulled his papers" to prevent him from getting into the Air Force Academy or into the Naval Academy. And so you've got two layers of resentment going. So all of the like laser glances like halfway through the first part of the movie was totally warranted. You completely get it, and it takes a lot for them to come around. And I absolutely love that by the end of the movie, they have the same relationship that him and Goose had pretty much inside that plane, which was great.
Well, what I loved was at the core of that was a choice for Tom Cruise or for Maverick, where it was, do I let him go on this probably suicide mission, the thing that I know he wants, that he's capable of doing, or do I protect him, not let him go on the probably suicide mission, and just keep him safe at his own expense?
Yeah.
And that's a really compelling choice for me. And the whole time I was like, yeah, what do you do? Like, do you like sacrifice him hating you but to keep him safe? And I loved that like so much. I hate his name though so much too.
Rooster?
Bradley Bradshaw. Stop it. Name him anything else.
Oh,
my biggest complaint with the movie.
Well, the thing is, though, you're going to have to go back and complain about the original writers of the first movie, because that's where that was established.
I don't remember them ever giving him a name. I just thought they were like, it's Little Goose. And I thought that was where they stopped.
If you watch the credits, it's the same.
Is it actually Bradley Bradshaw?
It should be, yes, if I remember correctly. It definitely is. And there's a lot of stuff in that.
Yeah.
And, like, Jennifer Connelly's character.
Yeah.
Supposedly, and I had to look this up because I had a feeling, but I had to look this up. Her character is supposed to be the Admiral's daughter that Meg Ryan talked about in the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Because Meg Ryan mentions, she was like, what about that Admiral's daughter you dated? And I think they mention a name, Peggy. And
Penny, yeah.
Penny, and that's her character in this. So like she's supposed to be that, like that character from the first one. Which I'm happy they didn't go after learning this. I'm happy they didn't go into that any further than just having it be like, a hint if you've seen both movies, because The Labyrinth came out the same year as the original Top Gun.
Yep.
So she is 8 years younger than Tom Cruise. So let's say character-wise, Tom Cruise is a 24-year-old pilot, like hotshot pilot in the Navy. Jennifer Connelly's 8 years younger than Tom Cruise. So 30 years later, the age difference isn't really that big of an issue. But back then, it kind of would have been.
What was disturbing to me on the rewatch of this is like, I had that in the back of my mind after I saw the movie because I did the math. But then, like, when they introduce her, David Bowie's playing. So it's like, oh, yeah, we know she was in Labyrinth. Like, do that math, moviegoer.
Yeah. Because she's like 14 in that movie. She's like 14, 15 years old in Labyrinth.
Straight up did not realize that. I didn't do the math on purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, the 80s, man, it was it was weird.
It was a time.
Yep. Okay, so moving on to I want to talk a bit about the mission itself. Did the mission remind you guys of anything in particular?
Oh, you're talking the Death Star trench run, 100%.
Yes.
Like, you're talking like balls to wall Donkey Kong, like type video game crap, Star Wars stuff going on. Like, as soon as he said it's like the mission breaching, you've got to hit this exhaust port that's like 3 meters wide. The first thing I thought was Luke leaning over, or one of the pilots going over. That's no bigger than a rump, than a rump rat.
Yeah. But it works.
It does.
Oh, it does work.
Yeah, and like even the diagram that they show him, like that John Hamm's like, I don't want you to have to do this, but here's what we got to do. Like, um, yeah, it's like so. This is Star Wars with real planes. Got it.
And SAMs instead of lasers.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's such a simple setup that like even like dummy me can understand it because they show you enough, and they're like, here's why this is dangerous. Then here's why this is dangerous. And oh, by the way, here's more danger. And they like, it's such a simple concept that I really liked it because it was just Tom Cruise teaching a bunch of kids. Like it didn't build up to the conflict in the same way as like, here specifically is what you have to worry about for these characters at this time. And that helped the stakes at the end of the movie for me, I think.
Yeah. Were there any moments in this with the flying that stood out to you guys?
Yeah, for me it was the double helix move that he and Rooster do on their very first dogfight.
Okay.
And then they like what did they go? They went under the floor or under the hard floor or whatever, which is just like the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, see what you did there.
There was one part that harkened back to the first one for me, and that's when Maverick decided to fly up in between Rooster and someone else and literally be upside down. And that's a total callback to the first one where Goose takes a Polaroid picture of the enemy plane. Like,
oh, yeah.
But then, of course, they go into a death spiral right after that.
Yeah. For me, I think the moment, the sequence I like the most is the first training montage where they all have to do push-ups. Because that's the sequence that I saw in front of Doctor Strange in Screen X. And like every time I see that, like it's just really well paced and edited. I saw a picture of the editing timeline for this, and like there are these like longer pieces of clips, and then like a lot of little tiny ones, and that's all the flying sequences. Like that's just so like I would love to like deep dive into that.
Yes, I wonder how long they had to film like planes in the air to get these exact things.
Something that I read that there's actually I forget which Lord of the Rings movie it is, but they used more film than the longest Lord of the Rings uncut version to make.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's
I'm
amazing.
not surprised.
No.
Yeah. That and all of the actors had to learn how to do their own sound, lighting, makeup when they were in the planes, and the director had no idea what kind of shots they were getting until they landed again a few hours later.
Weird.
Yeah.
Was Tom Cruise flying his own plane? Because I think he's got a pilot license.
They were all in the backseat.
Okay.
I mean, he's listed in the credits as Top Gun #1, Tom Cruise under stunts. So
that's so weird.
So who knows? He probably tried. He probably did more than he probably should have as an actor. But that's why you go to a Tom Cruise movie to see what he's gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I enjoy most about the first Top Gun is the soundtrack. I want to talk about the soundtrack to this one a little bit. Were there any musical moments in here that stood out to you guys?
The opening.
The opening.
I love that.
The opening theme.
Yeah, I love it, and it comes up again and again, and I just really like it.
Ryan, how about you?
I'm starting to really hate the song. Like there are a lot of cool moments with a lot of really good songs in this, but the one that impacted, I feel like, me the most for the character is when Maverick sees Rooster singing Great Balls of Fire at the bar. And yeah, I mean, just for the connection of him seeing, Goose's son doing that and everyone else singing along, which I love that whole montage, actually, of all of the younger pilots meeting each other at the bar and all their back and forth. I really, really enjoyed that because that part to me cemented the fact, like, okay, this isn't just a Tom Cruise movie. Like, these are also main characters pretty much. It's not just all about him.
Yeah, I think it was just about as equal to the other pilots in the original Top Gun as well, like Iceman. Like I think they get maybe a little bit more development than Iceman did, instead of just being the antagonist. But you still have like the one guy who's just like Hangman is still just the antagonist. Yeah. You don't get much depth from him. For me, I really enjoy the double football sequence. Because they couldn't do volleyball again, so they had them do offense and defense football with the One Republic song. I ain't worried about it. And part of the reason I enjoy that so much is the behind the scenes story about that is nuts. I don't know this. Tom Cruise and the production like talked to the main guy from One Republic, whose name I'm blanking on right now, and they talked about doing a song. They needed a song for this sequence, so they get off a call with him. And later that night, he sends them this song, and like the next morning, he gets a phone call from Tom Cruise, like, "We cut it into the movie, and it works perfectly." Like, how long have you been sitting on that? He's like, "Oh, I wrote that last night."
What?
And if you listen to it closely, it's a different version in the movie than what they released. So I think they kept most of that original version in the movie.
Weird.
Yeah,
it's very, very cool.
Yeah. And then there's a Lady Gaga song on the credits. Like,
I missed it. I totally missed it.
The Lady Gaga did the power ballad for this, which I think some of my favorite Lady Gaga songs are the power ballads that she does. Because what else?
She's good. She's got a great voice.
There's something in this movie that I want to talk about because I got a little bit emotional doing prep for this today, because I was like, oh, wow, this is going to be a interesting part of the conversation. I want to talk about Iceman.
I knew it. I wanted to talk about that too.
Because I knew when they announced this, well, I don't think you're going to get Val Kilmer because of his health condition. If you don't know, Val Kilmer's been suffering from throat cancer for the last few years. I think he's in remission now, but he can't talk. He's very much lost his voice. The documentary that they did with him is a lot of his voice in that is computer generated AI stuff. So when I saw that he was in this movie, I was like, I'm really curious how they're going to pull this off. And I think they did it fairly well. Like I didn't think they would go the route of he's just texting Iceman the whole time, but it worked for me. What did you guys think of the inclusion of Iceman in this, given the circumstances?
I thought that when they first did the texting, knowing what's going on with Val Kilmer, I was like, okay, totally get why they're texting. Kind of odd that, Maverick, being how old the character is actually texting, whatever. But then when he went to go to the house and they showed him, I thought it was really cool that, like, oh, okay, so they're not shying away from the health issue that this actor has. They're using it for the character so he can play the role. That's excellent. And I honestly thought that I honestly believe because of the length of time between both movies, it would make sense for how old they are for one of them to possibly have a health issue along these lines. They don't explain it for the character. They just give you, he can't talk. And when he does, it's extremely hoarse.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that was the part that got me, though, was when he started talking. I was like, I started tearing up a bit. I was like, wow.
I didn't know that happened.
Really?
I knew he shows up in the movie. I didn't know he was going to talk. And part of the reason I was like, oh, this is going to be painful to talk about is because of the Kevin Conroy just passing. Like, I'm doing a tribute show for him after we get off of here. And like, those are my Batmans. And like, I had the realization today that Val Kilmer's probably next. And I respect him so much as an actor, and Batman Forever, like, you can't see it behind me. Like, I don't have a poster up here, but I have a poster in my office. Like, that's the Batman movie that got me into the character. The animated series is what got me into the character as well. Like those two are like connected to me, and like I I know the day's gonna come sooner rather than later, but it's just it's silly that these are just actors that I get so invested in. But like I'm so like I've enjoyed those works so much, and it's not even just the Batman for Val Kilmer. It's Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. It's Top Gun. Like it's just Val Kilmer. Like I don't think I've seen anything with him in it that I didn't like.
Saint.
And that might be because I haven't seen the Island of Dr. Moreau. So
I actually liked that one, believe it or not.
have you seen the documentary on that? Like the behind the
Nope.
scenes stuff? You should.
Nope.
It's insane what happened on that movie.
Okay.
But yeah, I really enjoy Val Kilmer, and I'm glad they were able to include him in this. I get why they had to kill off Iceman in case there is going to be a Top Gun 3, which looking at the box office, there's probably going to be a Top Gun 3.
There.
Where they just the next one's going to be a plane battle in the snow.
Oh.
Yeah.
They're
So
just going to
different.
go the Fast and Furious route with it. That's how they're going to handle
No,
it.
go to
no.
space.
This big battle is going to be at the beginning in snow, and then then your main characters are going to get scattered around the galaxy, country, and then the fourth movie is they're going to have the trench run again, but this time it's going to be bigger.
It'll be the Grand
And then
Canyon.
20 years from now, there's just going to be a whole country that's a trench run that they have to do. And then they're gonna do another one where the last one just doesn't count at all.
So I want to talk about how badly this movie aged me.
Okay.
Like I'm starting to get to the point, like I'm in my late 30s and I'm getting into the point where like I see stuff in film, I see stuff in the news, and then there's the reality that like, oh crap, I'm going to have spent more time out of high school than I did from when I was born to when I graduated high school. Like I'm getting to that point.
Oh no.
And like realization for it. And for this movie, one of those times when they talk about I can't remember the F4 the F-16s, the F-15, the ones with the wings go like that, whatever. I can't remember the model number. But anyway, I had models of those when I was a kid. I had micro machines of those. Like Top Gun was out. That was like the standard fighter jet for the US Air Force when I was a kid. Like to me, that is still like a fancy plane. Like that's still a modern fighter, American bomber jet. Like that's how I still see those. And then in this movie, they're like, this thing's an antique. I can't get this thing on. What am I supposed to do? And like Rooster's in the back talking about how like antiquated the thing is, and making like, oh, it's a museum piece. And I'm sitting there going, what? It's not that old. It's like 15, 20. And then I'm like, 15, 20. I'm like, oh my God, it's old. It's old. It's an old plane. It's out of date. It belongs in a museum. Like that was one of those moments as I had during this, but I loved how they showed what a 5th gen fighter plane, probably one of the 5th gen fighter jets is what they were talking about going up against in this movie. And more than likely this like 5th generation of like fighter jet is probably going to be the last manned fighter jets.
Yeah.
After this, it's all going to be remote control or just drone control with like advanced AI in it. And what I loved that they showed was the capability of these planes. And Devin, this might be what you were talking about, the whole double helix. Like I have no idea what that means, so I'm just gonna assume that's what you were talking about. But I loved how they showed that it took immense skill for Maverick's character to even do half of the maneuvers that the 5th gen jet could do, especially the one where Rooster's flipping out going, how did it do that? Because it literally stopped in midair and went vertical and like twirled sideways as they blew past it. And that's because the tail fins on the back of the jet are longer on the 5th gen ones than normal, so it can actually direct the exhaust in more extreme angles really, really quickly. And that's how it can do those crazy maneuvers to where Tom Cruise had to like extend the wings, pull back the exhaust, and do all these crazy things to even do half of what the enemy planes were doing.
I didn't know that about the tail wings, and thank you for telling me. Because I was just like, it did exist fancier.
Yeah,
but like I didn't know why.
I grew up with a book that had a list. It came out in like 93 or 92. It was like maybe like an inch thick. And you know those like museum white books that we got as kids that would like break stuff down? I had one of those, but it was designed for marine and naval equipment. And they had fighter jets in it. So like the F-15, F-16. So I think I still have that somewhere. Where it talks about all these planes. I mean, hell, the fighter jet, the Phantom, that they used in like in the Vietnam War, I still consider that to be a modern jet, and it's not. It's not.
Ryan, just between us, you still got it, man. You didn't age your day. You still look great. You still got it.
Honestly, Ryan, when you said late 30s, I was like, that can't be right, and I did the math on my phone. I was like, oh wow, I didn't realize.
I'm not gonna calculator too.
Yeah, I'm not gonna out you, but I was like, oh wow,
no, I will. I'm 37. I'll be 38 this coming June. Like, this is one of those things where, like, I'm starting to get to the point where, like, my favorite Blink-182 album is Enema of the State. Look up what year that came out, and then guess how I feel about it.
Just love that you started with my favorite Blink-182 album.
That's the album that came out in middle school. I was in 5th grade. I'm not going to bring up that band name. I'm not going to say that band name. No, I'm not going to say that on the air. I'm not going to say.
If you put like $100 into a savings account back when that album came out and went to withdrawal today, you still want to be able to afford Blink-182 tickets.
That's fair.
Yeah, I know. And but at the same time, my parents wanted to go see like Elton John and, you know, people that were popular when they were in high school and college when, you know, in the 90s.
Yeah.
Because, you know, these people were popular in like the 70s. And I remember my parents complaining that they couldn't afford to go see Elton John when he went through St. Louis when I was a kid because the tickets were so expensive. So I was kind of expecting something like this to happen, but I mean, at the same time, I wasn't expecting seats in the very last row in the nosebleeds to be $100+ each.
Yeah.
That's where it's a bit much.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to go. So.
Yeah,
I would love to go.
All right. We've got
to, but I'm not doing it either.
Yeah, we've got to wrap this up. Last thing I have for you guys is, would you see a Top Gun 3 and would you want to wait another almost 30 years for a sequel?
Yes. My gosh, if like 90-year-old Tom Cruise is like, the danger zone, like, yes, 100% yes.
Yeah. I mean, I would prefer it sooner than that, but
the only way that I could see that working is if they incorporate Rooster and that horrible mustache into like get Tom Cruise, get Rooster, and like either halfway through the beginning of the movie or at the legit halfway point of the movie, like change hands of the story narrative, like change the story narrative from being about Tom Cruise, his character, into Rooster's character. But I mean, like I said, realistically speaking, we're talking about the next 25, 30 years. This is the last of manned fighter aircraft.
Yeah.
So I don't really know where they could go with this unless they're talking about like, I'm going to be the best drone pilot, and just a bunch of people sitting still going.
Well,
like
it's very clear in this movie that they do not specify who the enemy is.
Yes.
So I'm curious if things were to go south in a few different areas around the world, you could probably do a sequel where you name the enemy and have it be part of that conflict, if there were to be one.
Didn't they name Iran at the beginning of this?
No.
I thought they said that the bunker at the beginning was
They-
Iran.
No, they don't name it at all.
I know later in the movie they say rogue state.
Yeah. They don't say what country at all, because they wanted this to play in every box office around the world, unlike all the superhero movies which have not played in China.
Yeah,
So.
because very specifically, I'm just going to say it. There's a flag. I believe it's the Taiwanese Taiwan flag.
Yeah.
That is not on Maverick's coat that was in the first one.
Yeah.
Because of that.
Mm-hmm.
That was China's thing, that they didn't want that flag on the coat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Paramount wants that money, so they're like, okay. Whereas Disney and Warner Bros. Like, you know what? We're not going to, like...
We won't pander to you.
Yeah. Like, the demand for Spider-Man No Way Home was, can you take out the Statue of Liberty?
What?
It's like, that's like the whole focal point of the film. Like, that's the ending. Like, no, we can't do that.
Well, yeah.
But, all right. I think that does it for our conversation on that's Spider-Man. Top Gun Maverick. Devin, next week it is your pick. What are you going to have us watch?
You guys are going to watch Confess, Fletch.
Confess, Fletch?
Yes, because I want to hear your thoughts. It was the what I watched where we watched this. It's just called Confess, Fletch. I cannot wait to hear your
Two
thoughts.
John Hams back to back. Okay.
Oh, can't get enough of that, man. I sat in his seat once. We'll have to talk about that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a shame that we can't do like Ryan's pick in between and like have a ham sandwich, but
Gross.
I'm not being a part of that.
Anyway, to hear our conversation on Confess Fletch next week, make sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, hopefully still Amazon Podcasts after all that Jeff Bezos slander at the beginning of the show. If I don't even know if that makes the show, that might have been the pre-roll stuff. But you can follow us on Twitch to see our live streams. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch up on our older streams, like our Weird Al Yankovic movies episode from last week, where we tried all of the food that Devin brought from London. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and I think that about does it. For You Have to Watch This podcast, I'm Alan.